all about you. Hello and welcome to the show. I am Tawnya Marie. I'm an intuitive, energy healer, empath, and clairvoyant. I use my gifts to help transform your mind, body, and emotions. Many people today find it hard not to get overwhelmed by life, so I ask you, where is your focus? Where do you hold your emotions? Has everyday life made you focus on things that are less important? Every week, I will be helping my guests identify their stressors caused by block emotions that have manifested in the body. If you're interested in being a guest, please send an email to info@tawnyamarie.com. Stay tuned for after our guest. We will be doing a mindful meditation, helping us take time out and reconnect with our breath and our body. Good morning, and our guest this week is Eva. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being my guest. Thanks for being vulnerable and telling us your story. So as we kind of went over the questions in our opening is, where is our focus? Where do we hold our emotions? Has everyday life made you focus on things that are less important? You have had one crazy healing journey.
Yes.
And I have had the luxury, I guess you could say. I've had the honor on reading her. She has allowed me to do a reading on her, and she's taken a couple classes, and you've grown so much, especially since we've met over a year ago, I think.
Over a year ago, yeah.
So you have just grown so much, and then I'm sitting here and writing, and they said, the leaps and the bounds and the things that you've overcome. And let's talk a little bit about kind of your story on the things that you have overcome.
Yes.
And then we're going to go a little deeper and says, what can I help you with? And what are things that keep you on your focus? So why don't you tell everybody a little about you, just on your some main points about your healing journey and things that you want to highlight.
Okay. So my name is Eva, and I live in California, and I met Tawnya probably would have been about 14 months ago at a workshop she did out here in California for a friend of a friend here in town. And I am so grateful to have met Tawnya because it kind of started me on this new path that I'm on. And the reason why I went to the workshop was I'm almost 44, but when I was 40, I was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer. And at the time, I had an 8-year-old son and a 5-year-old son and a husband who I loved and still love very, very much. And I had a full-time career as a school teacher. One could say I just kind of had that sort of standard, straightforward, happy little life. And it was right before my 40th birthday. And I went in proactively for a mammogram because I was turning 40 and I thought I was being responsible and doing what I was supposed to do when I was turning 40 and get my first mammogram. And fast forward a week after that, and I was diagnosed with, at the time, stage 2 breast cancer. Obviously, I was shocked and blown away, couldn't believe this was happening to me. No signs, no symptoms, no family history, no reason to believe that this could have happened to me. And at the urging of my breast surgeon, she did a full body PET scan as part of her protocol just to sort of establish baselines for my treatment. And they found 3 metastatic spots on my liver. So I was instantly thrust from stage 2 breast cancer to now metastatic stage 4 breast cancer. And I had just turned 40 and I had these 2 little kids at home. Immediately quit my job to go on medical leave, started treatment. And what was so bizarre, aside from it being terrifying and horribly upsetting and tragic, and I mean, all the negative emotions you can imagine I was experiencing and then some. What was also very fascinating about my situation, and I was aware of it at the time, and I'm probably even more keenly aware of it in hindsight, was there was a strange calm that took over me when I started treatment, in that I almost felt like cancer was happening to me for a reason. While I wasn't exactly sure at the time what the reason was, I felt Not like it was a gift, because cancer destroys so many people and families, and I can't equate cancer as being a gift.
Right.
But it can be an opportunity, and that's how I chose to view it. And I immediately radically changed every aspect of my life, my diet, the kind of supplements I started taking, exercise, and a lot of emotional and mental and spiritual changes. And while it's easier to look at your diet or your exercise routine as the big changes you went through, probably the most profound changes I went through were deep inside in my soul, in my spirit, because I was a very, very, very busy, distracted human being, and cancer took a lot of the external distractions away from me, and I was forced to sort of be with myself for the first time in a long time and really dig through a lot of the emotional crap that a lot of us carry with us in our lives. And I started meditating. I started going on long, long, long 2-hour walks, and it was almost like a walking meditation. And I would just think about all the things in my life. Um, because of course, when you get a cancer diagnosis, I think a lot can relate to this. You look for your whys, like, why did this happen to me? And I started reading a lot of books on the emotional triggers and emotional implications of cancer, particularly breast cancer. And there was a Chinese medicine book that I read right from the start. I got it from a good friend who also is very into this sort of stuff. And so many things popped out of the page to me that could this have been an emotional illness for me? It manifested as cancer, but could it have been more caused by trauma that I had either experienced as a child? I had a very rather normal childhood, but let's be honest, normal childhoods still can contain trauma. Could it have been trauma from past lives? I started talking to an intuitive medicine doctor, and she was starting to talk about past lives. And at the time I thought, what on earth is she talking about? I'm living my one life. There's no such thing as a past life.
Right.
But the more she started talking about it, the more I thought, my God, like, could that have set foundations for patterns I had when I was 6, 7, 8 years old?
Yeah.
So I just started on this journey. And after 3 months, I went to my first scan, and they noticed that over half the cancer was gone after the oral chemo treatment that I was doing, but also these life changes. And the cancer that did remain was pretty much dying, according to the PET scan. And by my 6-month scan, I was in a complete remission, no evidence of disease. And fast forward to now, come this March, I will be 4 years in remission from stage 4 breast cancer. And,
Congratulations. That's
obviously,
amazing.
thank you. And, obviously my friends, my family, acquaintances, they will ask the question that I probably would have asked, which is, what do you think led to your healing? Do you think it was the medication? Do you, the oral chemo? Do you think it was a change in diet? Do you think it was going only organic as opposed to only sort of organic? And these are great questions. And of course, I don't really know.
Right.
My intuition tells me that it was the emotional and soul level healing that
Yes.
I had done and am still doing. And I I don't know why I feel that way. No one has told me that, except I know, Tawnya, you've alluded to that. But it's like an inner voice. And I have noticed that since my breast cancer diagnosis and this healing journey that I've been on, I have become way more in tune with the universe, with signs, um, images that speak to me, people in my life that have passed, I feel are communicating with me. And I've almost felt in hindsight like one particular member of my family who had passed was perhaps helping me along the way from the time that I got diagnosed into my healing. And I'm now a huge believer in the power of the mind, the power of the soul, and most importantly, our ability to heal ourselves. I do not believe that any of us are incapable of healing. I feel we all have it within ourselves, but I do feel that there there has to be a shift in your mind and in your heart and soul that believes in it first. And I think there's a lot of people who don't believe, and I don't judge them for that. I don't blame them. It's hard to step out of our literal world that we live in. But I feel like I'm a walking example of someone who, yes, made tangible changes, but made these like invisible changes too. And I just know in my heart, that's what's gotten me to this point. And I know that if I continue that journey, I think I will be able to live a full life and be a grandmother and see my kids graduate from college, and, all that stuff that I thought was going to be taken from me.
Right.
So
thank you. And I think the reason why I do this show is our story is healing.
Yep.
The most powerful healing is seeing where we started and seeing the hurdle, the hill, and seeing how we overcome it and what led us to that. And you said there was just something inside of you.
Yep.
And sometimes during this, we have stressors that come up in our life. So even when we had massive struggles, what's the things that keep you in focus and alignment? And it's the everyday practice of staying, like you talked about, mindful of your thoughts, not going down the rabbit hole of what if, and living in the state of fear. And moving through and moving into your heart space. However, I love how you mentioned the walking meditation, because a lot of people had come to me and say, I can't meditate. I don't know what to do. I can't shut up my mind.
Start doing it by walking. That was honestly that because I would have been that person 4 years ago that I couldn't, turn off my thoughts, and I couldn't sit still long enough. I was too busy. I had too much to do. And boy, you go out in nature and start with 30 minutes a day. And then you'll find yourself craving 2 hours a day if you can find it. And I get that it's a challenge, but to me, that was how I dove into it.
And that is self-worthy.
Yeah.
Allowing yourself to have the time to put you first. And that's where everybody makes a mistake, is they never put themselves first and allow them time to heal, because they put everything else above themselves when everything starts with you.
Absolutely.
I think you made like such huge points for everybody watching, that just identify in their life that when, you get a diagnosis, you get a situation, you get something, how are you going to see it? And that's where I talk about all the time, changing your perspective. And you talked about that, changing your perspective. And this gives me an opportunity to find within inside of myself that's been blocking me from my greater gifts of who I am. I allow and I honor myself this time to heal, this time to go in deeper. Not saying that it's like a pill. I talk to this all the time. It's not a pill like, oh, fear's gone. Here you go. There's trust. Nope.
Unfortunately.
No, it's not. I think it is super, super amazing that you can talk about it. So my question is, what can I help you with so you can continue to stay focused? Or what's one area that you may want my guidance, help, direction?
So, one thing that I really struggled with my first year after diagnosis, and I've gotten better, but it still sticks with me. When I hear about other people passing from cancer.
You're just going to go right on in it, aren't you?
Do you know what I mean? You can't help but feel like, well, there's a few reactions you have. One, and obviously the most obvious, well, am I next? And of course I'm completely healthy and I'm in remission and I don't have a reason to be thinking that, but cancer does funny things to you. It kind of wires your brain in this survival mode, so to speak. So, I hear of people passing, particularly from breast cancer. And, my oncologist will always say, your situation is your own and it's not everybody else's. And I think that's a lovely little buzz phrase that helps. But, you hear about people passing and you think, my God, what will make me different than them, or why them and not me? Um, and then also just the fear of not living that full life. And by full life, I mean all the steps you're expected to take, becoming a grandmother. You know what I mean? And because, and we always know, none of us know when we're going to pass on. None of us do. But when you have a cancer diagnosis, it seems to be like you're one step forward to that acknowledgement that you're going to pass on. And so I think it's the living in those little bits of fear, and just how to change the inner dialogue. Because again, like I said, I think it's your mindset that dictates your future. And those are probably the areas that I still have moments of vulnerability, for lack of a better way of putting it.
So you're asking a really big question. I'm going to answer. I'm going to answer it as much as I can with the last time I got left, but here you go. This is from my viewpoint, so people can take what resonates and leave the rest. But I, as you know, was diagnosed at the age of 2 with a heart defect that I was not supposed to live to see my teenage years. And having multiple heart surgeries, having a couple of NDEs, seeing the other side, near-death experiences, and going through and in and out of the hospital from 2 to 16. So living with that, I can completely understand, because everybody looks at me, especially when I go and see the cardiologist, and they're like, oh, you're going to have a surgery in another, 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Oh, and it's another 7 to 10. Oh, well, I don't know how you're still alive. Oh, well, now you're going to have, it's this. So it's the constant of, am I okay? And if you have a pain, oh my gosh, is it my heart again? Is everything okay? So that's the nightmare. Yes. So I immediately, which in your mind, a couple of times I've had little chest pains, flutters, which is normal. I'm a cardiac patient. I'm going to. Right. But I will elevate my blood pressure in something to nothing because of fear. And I used to do that long ago, not much anymore. So, so we're going to talk about the two things, because you talk about time out of life and, entering this. This is a very big concept, and people believe what they want to believe, and I'm not here to argue. This is just where I'm at. And this is where, and you know me personally, so you understand where I'm at and how I work and where I channel. So you came here with these experiences. So when you came into this life, you're like, I'm going to have these experiences. I'm going to have these situations. And then people talk about free will. We're not going to get into that. This is so, and you do have free will to not do those, but somehow you're going to still end up having to figure out address some of these situations in your life.
Right.
You have multiple times in your life that you have a choice to exit. So that could be a big concept.
Yeah.
You could have maybe outed out in 40, but you chose to stay.
Yep.
At 16, I chose to stay. I chose to stay because of my mother.
Yep.
So there is different times in your life that you have choices to leave. There's windows and there's opportunities all the time. How many times do you hear like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't be alive. I got an accident. I got this. There's windows.
Yeah.
But the big thing is, because your life, you're not done yet. You have a mission. And you are amazing. And your story is amazing. And your life, your soul, your energy, what you bring not only to your children, to your family, to everybody you come in contact with is amazing. And when it's our time to die, that means we're done with this phase and we move on to another phase. You're not done. And when you're done, you know it. And people say the good die young. That's what they came in here to do. And it's very hard for some people to understand this concept. And I'm not here to try to convince you. I'm just here to tell you that there's something so much bigger than us, so much greater than us. And we came here for a moment. And when we leave this physical body and we move on, this is a shell. This is a body that we picked to be in. Our soul is everlasting. Yeah. We are love and we are light, and we continue to move on to the next chapter, into the next phase. So it brings me to your second comment when you said expectations.
It's the same thing as when people get hung up about death. It's the same thing as people get hung up about this life, expectations on being a grandma, expectations. I want to ask you, who said that to you? Who said that this is what you're expected to do in life? Where in the hell is that written?
Right. Good.
The problem
honest,
is,
great question. That needs to be a takeaway for everyone. Great question.
Because everybody is expected, because this is what has been ingrained in us in society. And you wonder why so many people are railing against it, because it doesn't align to their soul. It doesn't align to them. It doesn't align to what they want to do.
Yep.
So I say, toss that old story, because if you don't want to do it, and I say this to you all the time, and you know it, you watch my videos, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it.
Yeah.
And immediately, is once it stops feeling good, and it's starting to feel resistance or stressful,
right,
it is your body to say, this ain't working. Just like you said, you were days in, days out, working, going, until Spirit said, all right, we need to stop. This isn't working anymore.
Yeah.
And it manifests in pain, physical body pain, because what does pain make us do? It makes us stop, recognize what is wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I need to go to the doctor. I need to go to this. Well, we need to talk about our soul, our internal mental health, beyond, this and inside. And what is our soul designed here? What did we come here to do?
Right. Yeah.
What brings that passion forward? Because what I'm doing day to day is not working. And that's when you have to step outside of yourself and says, what brings me joy? What brings me alive? Because that's what we came here to do, is we came here to live. And when you're not living, you're stagnant and you're just existing. Yeah. And why exist in a world that is full of so many opportunities, so many experiences? Because we're fear of what? Somebody's judgment?
Yeah.
Fear of the expectations from who? You don't give a shit about them anyway. So why in the hell are we holding up these expectations on their thoughts of us when we don't care really anyway?
We don't. We can't care.
Exactly. So that's when we have to go okay. And if you care about what other people think, then you don't give a shit about yourself. And that's what that means.
That's a very powerful statement. Wise.
Because you've stopped living for yourself and you're living for everybody else. And I will tell you, when you stop living for yourself and you live for everybody else, you will get disappointed time and time again.
Amen. Yeah.
And then that leaves you in a life of lack, a state of resistance, physical pain, feeling unworthy, because you're living for everybody else instead of you.
Yes. Yep.
So I say, throw the expectations in the trash. I don't need it. We're not there. I don't know who the hell or where the hell it came from. It don't matter, but I'm not there. I'm not there. And now it's time to live for me and what I want to do. And I know that what I have and what I've gone through can shift the perspective of every person I meet, because I am unstoppable.
Yes.
I've healed from things emotionally, physically, and mentally that most people don't, but they need the power of my voice to make a ripple effect in this world.
Yes.
Let's meditate. Let's close our eyes and just open up our palms, and we just are thankful and we're grateful for this time together. You're grateful for her story, for her life, for her family's sacrifice through her journey, for everybody who helped her, physical and non-physical, to move her into a place where she found her inner strength, where she found her beauty, where she found who she was again. I invite you to close your eyes and feel within your chest, within your heart, within your space. Ask yourself, who are you? Who am I? What do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? What do I want to experience? What do I want to feel? You and only you know. Your story and your life is beautiful. It is unique. If we were all made the same, this planet would be boring. We came here to live and experience and express. Find this fire, this passion within you that lives and burns and keeps moving on and keeps striving for more. We learn, we grow, we evolve. We laugh, we cry, we don't stay the same. And that is beautiful. That is magnificent. The more we get to know us, we fall deeper in love with self. No one can love you as much as you love yourself. You are everlasting. You are unconditional. Now is the time for you. Breathe into your chest, into your heart, into who you are. Open up your heart for experiences, for joy, for laughter, for healing, for expression, for clarity. Fall into this love of you. Find what makes your heart sing. Find your joy. And just breathe. Accepting all of you for exactly who you are, because who you are is absolutely beautiful. Wrap yourself, give yourself a hug, and know that you are absolutely amazing. Take 3 breaths. And when you're ready, you can open up your eyes. How do you feel?
Amazing. Centered.
That's what I was going to ask you. Yeah. Thank you so much for your story, for your journey, for your life, for your strength.
Thank you.
I am so glad that you got to share to everybody watching.
Me too.
That no matter what the situation is, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. Always.
Yes. Always.
Never lose faith.
Nope.
Thank you. Thank you. And I will see everybody next week with a new guest. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And remember that you are loved. You are absolutely amazing.